Y'all ready?
Yeah. Don't kick me, whoever's kicking me.
That guy. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming out here this morning. I appreciate your patience while we were getting ready. We wanted to make sure we had the most recent information to give to all of you. As you can see, there's a number of important people behind me. County Executive Johnny Olszewski is here. Fire Chief Joanne Rund is here, and some other members of our command staff are here to assist with this briefing. With kind of a rundown and summary of this entire incident. So if you'll bear with me, I'll go ahead and do that, starting in a kind of linear fashion from when it began yesterday. So yesterday, around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, our units in Baltimore County Fire were dispatched to a report of a brush fire here in the Soldier's Delight area in Owings Mills. It's the 5100 block of Deer Park Road is the actual incident address. The units found a very large, fast-spreading fire. They knew immediately a typical brush fire. We get a lot of brush fires this time of year because the conditions are right for it. Most of them, are 4 or 5 acres or so. This was clearly going to be something different that we were not typically used to. Immediately called for additional assistance. Eventually, this escalated to an 8-alarm fire. That is a huge incident. To find something similar in size and scope, you have to go back to the 1970s when we had a major fire and explosion at the suburban propane facility up in Upperco. But it has literally been that long since we've had anything of this magnitude. 8 alarms meant we had more than 200 personnel here. This was a multi-jurisdictional event. We had mutual aid from every single jurisdiction surrounding us, as well as Frederick County, the Maryland Air National Guard, the Pennsylvania Department of Forestry, Baltimore City, Harford County, and all the rest of our regional partners. They were all here. We did an emergency on-call for personnel because we're going to need every available person to help fight this fire. By, I would say, sometime before midnight last night, our firefighters had this fire contained, about 95% contained. They remained here throughout the night, putting out hot spots, monitoring the damage. As you can see, we are, and we expect to be here throughout the day. At some point, the scene will be turned over to the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, who will remain on scene until there's no longer a need for that. The parameters of this fire, or let's talk about the damage. So there's 700 acres that have been burned. The parameter that is in the Soldier's Delight area. The damage area, the area of burn extends eastward up toward Church Road and Campitelli Court. So it's a very large 700-acre fire, very unusual for this part of the country. In terms of damage, we had 2 outbuildings that were destroyed. There have been no homes destroyed, although we are doing, we have firefighters that are riding around doing checks of homes to see if any have been damaged. From the beginning of a scene of an incident like this, that is obviously the priority, is protection of lives and property. And when this thing was really going, yesterday afternoon, there was real fear that people's homes could be affected. So it's a real credit to the career and volunteer firefighters and all of our partners who were here that we were able to prevent that kind of damage from happening. There have been no injuries except 1 minor firefighter injury, so that was very good news. Yesterday, there were 29 homes in the affected area that were evacuated. I believe a lot of those people are still not back in their homes. We expect them to begin to start coming back as the assessments are made that it's safe for them to return. We, as I said earlier, expect to remain here throughout the day. There are additional airdrops of water that are planned sometime this morning, early this afternoon. But we will be here until we are confident that the threat of additional fire from this incident has passed. I think that is pretty much everything I had to brief you on. We'll take questions in just a minute, but before we get to that, I want to bring Fire Chief Joanne Rund to the microphone to talk about what happened here.
Thank you, Elise, and thank you, partners, for being here. I want to take one moment to thank our citizens. Your cooperation in helping us evacuate you was critical. That is how we were able to save as much as we were able to save, is because you helped us, you actually cooperated with us and allowed us to get you out of the area. I also need to thank all of our partners that we have had, our volunteer system, our Air National and our Army National Guard, our forestry division. We could not have done that without you. They really guided us in areas that were really critical and deep, very thick for our firefighters to get into. And we don't typically do that. Our airdrop partners are here now, so please forgive the noise. So it's very important that I express, as your fire chief, that I'm very thankful for the evacuation efforts. Our team did just a phenomenal job. We had 200 pieces of fire equipment here operating on scene with countless amount of personnel, both career and volunteer. And that effort itself is what helped us mitigate this for any further damage for our citizens. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. County Executive?
Good morning. I think it's still morning. I know it's been a long day for our men and women who have been courageously fighting this fire. As was mentioned, this is really unprecedented. And so I want to echo Chief Rund's sentiments that we are grateful to our careerists, our volunteers. This was truly an all-hands-on-deck effort that required friends and partners from Baltimore City, Howard, Anne Arundel, Frederick, Carroll, Pennsylvania, our friends in Maryland Forestry, National Guard, who's doing airdrops as we speak. We just want to thank everybody for their efforts. I think it's a testament to and the dedication of our folks that we were able to avoid, as best we know, any major damage to homes, save for the one minor injury to a firefighter. It's really incredible when you consider the size and scope of what they were tackling today. So I just want to express our appreciation again to the men and women of the fire department, the other agencies who were a part of this, both within Baltimore County but also across the state and even outside the state. So hat tip to them. This will be active. We're going to make sure we get this completely under control before we open things back up, but just really proud of the work of our men and women in the fire department. Grateful for our partners who stepped up to make this happen. Hopefully this is another several decades before anyone sees something like this again, but the fact that they were ready and for something so unprecedented, I think speaks volumes to the professionalism of both our team but also our partners. So I just want to express our gratitude again. Thanks.
Does anybody have any questions while we're all here together?
I have a few questions.
Okay.
Do you know how much water was dropped via air? I know this was a dry spot, and you guys mentioned yesterday it was hard to get water here, and that was, assist. Do we know how much?
Skip?
Each helicopter drops about 250 gallons. I'm not real sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Each helicopter drop carries about 250 gallons. I'm not 100% sure on how many drops today. I would imagine about 10 last night.
10 to 12.
Roughly 10 to 12 drops last night. We're not sure how much we're going to need today. It's going to depend on how the weather goes and what's going on. So.
And I know you mentioned that it hasn't been a fire of this magnitude since the 1970s. Can we talk about how it was different fighting this fire? How have things changed to help fight fire this way?
Well, I was in high school in the 1970s.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not saying it as if you were here.
Skip, would you like to talk about that?
As was stated earlier,
We normally deal with acres about 10 acres. We're dealing with 700 acres that we don't usually have. So that makes this very unusual for us. More fires like this you see on the West Coast. We don't normally see them here. So this is the largest fire I've ever seen in Baltimore County as far as spreading in the acreage.
Any idea how it sparked?
It's under investigation at this time.
Typically causes a brush fire that you fight?
It could be anything. A spark could be natural in nature, and it could be a spark here from there. We just don't want to make any speculation of what this one was caused by. We're not going to allow them to go back into their homes until we feel it's safe for them to return.
Chief, could you speak about, I don't know if your fleet is the right word, but we know you have the big fire engines, but what sort of vehicles do you have that can take water to somewhere that the big engines can't? Yeah, what is your...
We have specialized vehicles that we use, ATVs, where that. We have specialized pickup trucks that carry water on them that can go into the back terrain that assist us as far as attacking the fires there. But we also deployed our engines. Luckily, we're in areas where we could deploy our engines where we get large amounts of water to there, and we use our hose when we could.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, sir, your name and title?
Deputy Chief.
Got it.
Francis, CIS.
Cool.
DePaula, DI, capital P-A-U-L-A.
And Chief, I know you mentioned there was over 200 pieces of equipment that was used. Can you kind of talk about some of the equipment that we don't see, other than the water and the tanks that he mentioned, the ATV tanks?
Sure.
That were used.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. So in addition to the ATVs that we have behind us, we have brush trucks, as he was talking about, that are pickup trucks with hose lines on them. So if you think about your hose that you have at your house that you use as you're watering your gardens, we have larger versions of that on pickup trucks. In addition to that, we also have what's called tankers, and those tankers will carry anywhere from 2,500 gallons to 5,000 gallons, and we will bring them in and set them along roads like this to supply whatever units we have going into the brush area to be able to get that water supply in. And then we will just continue to rotate those units in, and the fire engines carry a significant amount of water as well.
Potential threat, since it's going to be hot today and another, warm day, do you think there's any threat of it happening again?
Nothing other than the average. We've got to make sure that we keep what is currently burning under control, and we will work with the forestry division to make sure that we keep the parameters and keep it within the confines of where it is.
Other than the airdrops that are happening, are there any other efforts to control the hot spots on the ground that you guys are monitoring?
Yes, we have forestry who's in with backhoes and with bulldozers, in addition to personnel that are going in with rakes and hose lines, etc., to actually dig out those areas and work out those areas. There's other things I'm sure I am not familiar with.
Basically, what we're doing for forestry is we have bulldozers that we're using to put in what's called fire lines, where we're taking the fuels down to bare mineral soil that won't burn, and that's going to contain the fire and get it in check. And then we're going to make the perimeter safe. After that, the center of the fire might smoke and burn for a week, 2 weeks. That's perfectly fine as long as it's not outside those lines. So we'll be back and forth until the fire's out. We'll be checking on it every day, 2-3 times a day. We'll have a presence here until the fire's completely out.
And sir, your name and title, please.
I'm Gilbert Wagner. I'm a fire specialist with the Maryland Forest Service.
Wagner Forest.
There are who have been conducted this year yet. We do burn usually in the fall and the spring in Soldiers Delight. When we do, we bring in the crew and the manpower to keep it in check. But we have not been burning here yet this year. So.
And just given the very mild winter we had, are there concerns that this could happen again, either
Well,
or here?
there is until we get some significant rain. Right now, I believe I looked at the weather departures, and the eastern shore where I'm from is down about 5, almost 6 inches of rain for the year. So until we get some significant rain, there's always the chance. It happened yesterday. It could happen next week, depending on the weather. Weather plays a big part in fire behavior and fire spread.
I know you all said that this is usually around the time when you guys see brush fires. Obviously not something this large, but during this time, is there a message that you all have for people to kind of, do what they can to prevent something like this?
Yeah, just watch outdoor burning, watch cigarettes, any type of sparks. As soon as you see one, call immediately because you see how fast it can spread. Dial 911 immediately, get the people going. Just watch where you put your ashes. Motorcycles, dirt bikes, spark arresters, any of that. The only true natural wildfire in Maryland is light. Other than that, it's all human caused. That, to burn something down, it's all human. Other than.
All right, thank you all. Thank you both.
One thing I just want to close with, regarding cause and investigation, I just want to make it clear, the fire department is not the investigatory body here. I believe it's state police in this case, but I'll have to verify that and let you all know that for certain. Does anyone know for certain who's the investigatory body?
The Forest Service has the jurisdiction over it, and we're working with the State Fire Marshal's office to determine a cause area of investigation. We're working with them. But ultimately, the Forest Service is responsible for investigating the fire for origin and cause.
Is that because it's on state parkland, or that's just...
No, that's just because it's out in the woods. Okay. The State Fire Marshal's office specializes in buildings and structure fires, and we specialize in the wildland. Cool. So we work hand in hand with those, and we are working with them to come up with a cause and area of origin with it. So,
Thank you all very much.
30 years, this first press conference I did.
You did great. You're natural. You did wonderful.
I'm going to get up here. I want to find out what our guys have come up with.